you looking to use your crypto for a large purchase, like a home or a car? Well, you might want to consider Liquid Loans. It's the first truly decentralized lending protocol built specifically for Pulsechain. Get 0% interest-free DeFi liquidity for all of your needs right now. To learn more about liquidloans.io, the sponsor of the Zone 5 podcast, visit liquidloans.io. Hey guys, welcome to Zone 5 Pulsechain Podcast. Zone 5, it's the highest level your heart rate can get to because, my God, Pulsechain is exciting. We're here with some exciting people as always. I'm joined by the lovely Duchess of DeFi herself, Cassie Wood. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing, Cassie Wolf?
I'm doing wonderful. Super excited about this interview.
Yeah, it's a lady interview today, actually. We have two ladies in the house here. I'll be interviewing Kaitiee Crypto here in just a few moments. Going to bring her on, but going to bring on our favorite non-lady co-host. That is Corey Costa, ladies and gentlemen. He is a Pulsechain expert, and he does not look like a lady, and that's great because if he did, I don't know if he'd be very pretty.
I wouldn't think so either. I've seen myself as a woman in those little those like AI things, and by God, thank God I was born a man. Thank God. But no, it's an honor to be here as always. I'm glad that you're doing this. I really think that Pulsechain needs that mainstream, paradigm shift to a new audience, and it's an honor to see all of you, Cassie, Ben, Kaitiee. It's an honor.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. We got to have a local expert in case we get off the rails here. But I thought today's episode is going to be very interesting because we just interviewed RG3 the last episode. What did you think, Cassie, about the RG3 interview?
I love RG3.
He's so great.
He's a good fellow. I've met him in real life. He's a good fellow.
Yeah. Do you know anything about RG3, the football player?
I don't.
So RG3, the football player, Robert Griffin III, he was a quarterback from Baylor. I think he won the Heisman, actually. And he went to the NFL. And the end of his first year, he got in a really terrible, we won Rookie of the Year, got in a really terrible injury. A play, got sacked, and it ripped his Achilles. He was already, the point is, that's RG3, Robert Griffin III. And so it's really easy for me to remember this RG3 because it's the only other RG3 I've ever met in my life. Well, actually, I never met. He's the only one I've ever met. I never met the other one. I just saw him play football. I does analysis now. So
this one's a pirate.
And this one's a pirate.
I love the pirate theme, like within the community. It's my favorite thing ever.
Yeah, I tell you. At RG3, he is something. But look, it's a great episode, and we talked a lot about the beginning and Richard and moving to, I doxed myself for just figuring out that Pulse is a playoff of Richard Hart. I guess they all know that, all that community. I'm the one that's dumb. I get it. But we figured that out. And we did a lot of cool stuff. But what we really didn't get into, like, what's going on with Pulsechain and what's going on with the community. And we're going to bring in one of, if not the biggest Pulsechain influencer here in just a second, Kaitiee Crypto. And I think it's going to be really cool because she says she helps onboard people in the community. And that's kind of like our whole thing is trying to figure out how they do that. So I'm really interested. Should we bring her on?
Yes,
why don't you bring her on?
Kaitiee, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really awesome setup you have too, by the way.
Thank you. We worked real hard on this. Going back to the onboarding question, you mentioned a second ago that you were saying that that's what you do. It's kind of onboard people in the community. They have problems. You help them out. Let's get into that a little bit more. What do you do? Like, what do you tell everybody what you do and kind of your genesis and Hex and Pulsechain, the whole thing?
Yeah, I just tell everybody that I'm a crypto degen. Pretty much all I do is help onboard projects and help get them settled into Pulsechain, because obviously, like, when you're moving over to Pulsechain, our L1, like, we don't have the same type of infrastructure as other chains. So, like, I do a lot of helping projects, helping get them grounded and set up, and obviously reaching out and meeting new people and networking for our community.
That's awesome. Sounds like a lot of work.
It's like grassroots. Right? That's kind of like, that's what we love about this community. It's like the thing we want to kind of recapture in our own community with Bitcoin. It's like the grassroots of, like, you don't have an Ethereum foundation. Now, I know there is a Pulsechain foundation is being formed, but it wasn't formed as a nonprofit to assist the creation of the chain or anything like that, like all the other foundations were. And so, there's not a big team. I guess, everybody's volunteers. I assume everybody's volunteers. I don't know if there might be some developers out there that Richard might have hired at the beginning. Might have paid. I actually went to, in my book tour in Las Vegas, my meetup, I met someone who their son. They were an older couple, and their son was one of the top developers building Pulsechain before it was built.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he worked with Richard on it. I don't know who he is. You might know who he is, but I didn't know his name. So I just know somebody I knew. So anyways, I digress. I say all that to say the community here is one that obviously has been through a lot as well, coming from all the heck stuff. How have you guys managed to keep it together? Like me and Cassie are running, like we're burning at both ends trying to do all the stuff we're doing. Like, how can you run and have people run an entire chain when it's like you got mom and pop's Twitter accounts like, hey, let me help you all out, show you how to do this. You know what I mean?
Our community is a little unorthodox and unorganized, but I think everybody plays their roles. There's really not many people that won't help you in Pulsechain. If you need something, there's a whole group of subset people that you don't really see as face fronting people that you can reach out to for help. A lot of the sayings around crypto, how devs are the unsung heroes of the blockchain. Well, we have that through Pulsechain. There's a lot of unsung heroes that no one knows about, but yeah, no, that's pretty much how it works.
So very interesting. I think that, looking at developers, there's so many different chains out there, so many different programming languages. I know we're going to talk to the Swede people soon. They have that Move programming language. Everything's very user friendly. Some of these different chains and their programming languages, but with Pulsechain, I guess they just use Solidity, right? Is that correct?
Solidity, JavaScript, yeah.
Yeah, I just use Solidity and JavaScript, so that's cool.
Is it essentially the same as developing on Ethereum?
Yeah, pretty much. We only have a few minor changes, and that's more like to the consensus. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty much identical to Ethereum. Our only thing that's different in terms of developing on Pulsechain versus Ethereum is Ethereum has the full infrastructure and the nodes and the hosting and everything for developers and teams and projects, where Pulsechain, we don't really have that. Yeah, just a little bit more difficulties around that side of things. Otherwise, yeah, it's just like building on Ethereum.
Well, the individual teams, because they just build their own infrastructure for the money they save in gas fees.
Right.
So, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, so you help a lot of these different projects and stuff. What kind of projects are you seeing coming to Pulsechain? And before I give you time here, I want to say this. Almost everything that I feel like I've seen on Pulsechain so far has been DeFi related, has been something about yield or gambling or something DeFi related. Is that right now kind of the bulk of all the focus with Pulsechain, or are there some other kind of dApps, some ones that we see on other chains?
Pretty much we have everything on Pulsechain, in terms of what other chains have. So our community, because we don't have a grant program, we can't pay people to come integrate with our chain like others. Our community just started building everything prior to Pulsechain launching. So all your protocols that you have on other chains that people really love, we have on Pulsechain. So even your GMX forks from Arbitrum, we have one of those on Pulsechain. ENS, for instance, we have a fork of that on Pulsechain. Yeah, pretty much everything that you love about other chains we have. In terms of what we don't have though would be oracles, which allow you to build out some of the other stuff, right? That's more infrastructure based. But I mean the meme coins and NFT crowds and it's pretty much the same as every other chain, minus a couple of DeFi applications. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess you're the ecosystem expert. You go into all these chains very deeply. What would you say are some of the more successful decentralized applications you've seen on some of these other chains? Cetus comes to mind really easy, obviously, but
well, yeah, I think liquidity is massive. Any kind of platform that's allowing you to supply liquidity in exchange for their token. That's typically something that I see. I haven't had a chance to explore the Pulsechain ecosystem yet. I bought a bag. I have a bag. I just haven't gotten much further than that.
Speaking of liquidity, I did want to say this very quickly. I think this is very important. Every show, we have a time where the word liquidity gets brought up. And that's when I always bring up our title sponsor, Liquid Loans, one of the absolute biggest and best, actually the highest TVL in all of the Pulsechain chain. And of all the Pulsechain chain, the highest TVL is Liquid Loans. And I know Corey knows something about Liquid Loans. Show people, help them get their feet wet.
Sure. So basically, just a brief synopsis of Liquid Loans. Liquid Loans is the first truly decentralized lending protocol built specifically for Pulsechain. It has the highest TVL of all the projects on Pulsechain, with the exception of the RH tickers. It has a fully backed stable coin with a low 110% collateral ratio. There's no repayment schedules. It's immutable. It's governance free. And one thing that's also very good is that it has no admin keys. Basically, it perpetuates a notion where you don't have to sell your Pulsechain. There's a 0% interest rate. Liquid Loans charges a small one-time fee to borrow USDL instead of highly variable interest rates often found when borrowing. And basically, you can think of USDL as the native backed stablecoin that aims always to be worth $1. Many stablecoins today are fiat backed, but USDL is different. It doesn't rely on dollars in a bank account. Instead, USDL is minted when users deposit Pulsechain, which is Pulsechain coin, as collateral that has been locked into individual smart contracts called vaults. So Liquid Loans is the largest project on Pulsechain, and I just wanted to give them a brief shout out.
Well, thank you, Corey, for that. I tell you, just what on time that sponsored ad was. How amazing. I say, Cassie, what do you see the biggest, most important? And you said liquidity. And then we just right there, that sponsor. Yeah, sometimes you don't choose the ad for the sponsor. The sponsor's ad time chooses you.
Shoot, well, what they're doing is huge. I mean, for growth, there has to be liquidity.
Life's unexpected expenses can be a headache, but Liquid Loans, the sponsor of the Zone 5 podcast, offers a quick and simple solution. Need a financial lifeline? Check out Liquid Loans and see how they can help you tackle those surprises with ease. A quick visit to their website could be the fix you're looking for. So, Katie, let's bring it back here to Pulse. What do you think, if there's somebody out there that is looking around and they've just kind of got into crypto, but they're also like a little nerdy and techie, so they've already got something they want to do. They're like, hey, I just got in, I'm looking around all these chains. I want to build this cool seahorse racing game. It's going to be awesome. What chain should I build it on? What are you going to say? What is your pitch, Katie, to that person to build their seahorse game? And it is a race game. It's a seahorse racing game on Pulsechain.
Well, in terms of development, Ethereum's always and still the best chain to develop on. So why make your users pay $40 per swap, $20 just to send something? And instead of having your whole entire protocol crippled by the Ethereum gas fees, why not build on Pulsechain because it's fractions of a cent?
Beautiful.
That's a pretty good pitch.
That is a great pitch.
I'm sold. I am sold. So anyways, Horsing Around Underwater comes out September this year on Pulsechain. Anyways, guys. Look, I think that was so funny. I need more
You're
credit
hilarious.
for
that. You are so funny.
I'm even sitting down. That wasn't even stand-up comedy. So we're gonna have to press forward and do a real podcast now. So okay, so back to this. So that's it. I think that's a very good point you make. I mean, we were saying what a great answer that was, because it really was a great answer. I mean, it's like at first I forgot what we were talking about when she said Ethereum is the best chain to build on. Well, I'm thinking, wait, what is this lady saying? What does she mean? Why would you want to pay? Oh, that's right, because we're talking about Pulsechain and there's no gas fees. That's the problem with Ethereum, is the gas fees. They're so high, they're outrageous. And I mean, we're like with Bitcoin, we're looking at this Ethereum chain, what do we do?
Yeah.
What do you do with Ethereum right now when you're on layer one Ethereum? Get off of it? I mean, that's it seems like it's the Titanic right now in a lot of senses. I think that we were certainly talking to, I think it was RG3 mentioned, Ethereum's always going to be around. Ethereum's always going to be around, but it's going to be RWAs. It's tokenization of assets is what BlackRock's doing. They want it to be a little slow.
Well,
they don't mind it being a little slow and the gas fees being high because it's institutional. They don't give up about a $400 gas fee.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and this is still something, and don't get me wrong, Ethereum decentralization, huge fan of that. But with TradFi coming in, I feel like there could potentially be other chains that are built and have the features necessary for RWAs. And that's still up for, and maybe I'm wrong there. We're going to have a conversation about that later and I'm going to do some research. But I don't think that just because institutional money is coming in that they're necessarily going to only default to Ethereum.
Well, but that's the scam. It's a scam, though. TradFi has chosen Ethereum. And if you go build on another chain, then you have now crossed a company line with the TradFi people. That's how it is. I'm telling you guys are going to see all this in the next couple of months. It's at Ondo, all this stuff. Yeah, what was it? They were talking about Ondo today. They were talking about how much money it was going to bring in alone. It's going to like bring in more money alone than the whole entire market cap of crypto. Just one coin. It's crazy. But I digress. That's something that, you know, we're starting to see this tokenized economy, right? Like Kaitiee, when we talk about tokenized economy, and we've talked about it for years on crypto Twitter, now crypto X. You know, we're talking about like a world where people are buying and spending crypto, right? Like that's our tokenized economy. All these different communities. Pulsechain has theirs. X has theirs. Sweet has theirs. Gala has theirs. Everybody's got their own. That's what John McAfee told me on a podcast one time. He said, that's what it's going to look like. Everybody's going to have their coins. No, tokenized economy is just TradFi taking over. Like that's what it was now. Now the entire thing is taking over. And we look at these communities like, what is the benefit of decentralization in a world where TradFi is kind of already taking cryptocurrency over? Like kind of almost defeats the purpose. Why do we keep fighting, Kaitiee?
Because we have a right to transact and, you know, we need to fight for that. So it's like even your L2s, for instance, and like I'm a big fan of some L2s. So like Arbitrum, for instance, I'm actually a really big fan, even though some people wouldn't notice. You know, they rely on sequences and those things on heavy load start to fail and then they don't process the transactions. You know, they all have a backdoor. You're talking about other chains that go down all the time. So, you know, you're talking about TradFi and tokenization. Like the other chains aren't going to get that type of adoption because they can't actually maintain a proper consensus or like the record keeping that's actually needed for it. So if you move over to an L2 and its sequencer starts to fail because it can't process the heavy like transactional volume, then now you have a chain that's going to collapse on TradFi, so they can't adopt it. So like we have a huge adoption curve coming to crypto. It's the reason why they adopt Ethereum is because it can actually handle and not collapse, right? Like the chain never goes down, but it's slow. It's expensive. So yeah, there's a lot of things. The more they take over Ethereum, though, we do run into centralization issues, especially like Lido, for instance, the staking service. Like they're not capping out their service. And I think they're at 33% of the entire stake of the network. So yeah, it's like a catch-22. We want things, but the more it comes, it brings up its own issues. So we fight for decentralization because we want to own our own money and not have anybody tell us what we can and can't do with it. But yeah,
you know, I think I kind of disagree with that. I think most, just like with most things, I think that's what most of us would say. All right. I don't know if that's really true. I think those of us that really love decentralization, I don't know if it's about owning our own money. I think it's just really like, because there's got to be something better than what we're doing right now, right? Isn't that what this is all about? It's like whatever our system is right now. And what you're saying is like we keep getting into this. We keep finding out like, God, there's more problems. We get into something, we're like, God, we thought this was a problem. We fixed this. We're like, God, there's more problems. We start seeing like just how bad and how corrupt everything is. And then trying to fix it is like I said, in 2017, I thought adoption was 2 years away. We were going to be there. Now, 7 years later, I think it's maybe 20 years away. Who knows? This year, it's going to seem like it's higher this year in the next 2 years, as you know, than it actually is. But we just want to fight for something better than this stupid rigged system that everybody has, you know? And it feels like even in crypto, like so with Ethereum, and it feels like a rigged system a lot of times. You know what I mean?
Well, I agree with her on, you know, fighting to own our own money. It's like if I had all the money that I have in crypto right now in my possession, it would be my bank account, which means it's not really in my possession, right? It's being lent out. Like I have no control over it. If I go in and I make a transaction over, it's like $10,000, I get put on a list, and you know, and it's I think I'm with you on that. But yeah, we do see this. It's like this conflict. It's like, oh, institutional money is coming in. We're so excited about it. And then institutional money gets here and we're like, wait, hold on. Like, what does this mean for us and what we're doing?
Yeah. But how many people have their bank accounts frozen? You know, if you do something wrong in the real world, they freeze your bank account. They take your money from you. Yeah, they wipe bank accounts to zero, right? Like that's centralization, and that's what we fight against. Like you should have the right to buy what you want and not have your bank account frozen. Like that's not okay. It's your money, you earned it, you pay your taxes even, and they still go, no, not today.
I agree. You see that You saw that with the insolvency issues during the Great Depression. You saw that with the bank runs that occurred during the Great Depression. You see it now, and most people don't even know that FDIC insurance for bank accounts doesn't go past $250,000. So there's a lot of components. I agree with that 100,000%. Where, especially what happened, for example, like, not to get political here, but what happened with the Canadian truckers, where their bank accounts were frozen because they supported the trucker protests. Yeah. There's a centralized paradigm there that really is a bit is putting it lightly, is very despotic. But I was going to make a layer 2 joke, but this is a PG podcast, so I'm going to let that go.
Wow.
Well,
Ben knows that joke. Ben knows the layer 2 joke. I made it on his.
Yeah, that was a good one. Oh God, that was a great one.
Thank you.
So Justin Trudeau, following up on the Canadian trucker protest, he was found to be in violation of the rights. That was just recently. I haven't followed up on what that means for him. Probably nothing.
It means nothing.
It goes. But currently in the U.S., it's like over 20% of people in the United States are underbanked or unbanked.
Yes.
How many? 22%.
I think that's wild to begin with. It's
insane. Well, it's not just unbanked. You said underbanked as well?
Underbanked, yeah.
Underbanked or unbanked. And I was underbanked because I had a credit union that I could use. It was a big scheme by these other people, but I digress. Point is, I didn't have a regular bank account for years. And we were at the point where we were trying to figure out how to just use crypto. And then all of a sudden, I found out that there was a bunch of lies that had been told me. It wasn't that hard for me to go get a bank account after all. Yeah. And I went in with her and we got one. And I actually, am I proud to have a bank account? No. Secretly, when nobody in the crypto world is watching me, am I comforted by the fact that I have a bank account like a normal human in America? Yes. So there you go. Okay. So now, Katie, you had worked at some point with a project involved with, in the crypto space. And I don't know, how long have you been in crypto? When did you get into crypto, Katie?
A long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I think that in the world of crypto, you go back and you look, and things change very quickly over the years. And I think that if you look back in 2017, look back at 2017, I sound like the Uber driver who told me he bought Bitcoin back in 2003. Back in 2019, when Hex was really getting going, and there was a lot of negativity around it. You fast forward to where we're at today with Pulsechain, the Hex community, and going from everybody and their brother, except for the people who put money into it, saying Richard's a scammer and Hex isn't going anywhere and this thing sucks, to where we're at today. You fast forward and you look through all of being a person who's been in the space for a while. What are your thoughts on where we are from where we started and then where we're going with Pulsechain?
Full disclosure, most people know I didn't like Richard Hart when I first came across him. I didn't invest in Hex early because, I didn't like Richard. Took me a lot of learning curve as well. And a large part of it is the overall sentiment and what everybody else had to say. You say social consensus and psyops isn't real, but when enough people say something, you do kind of go, yeah, okay. And it does change the way that you perceive somebody instead of taking them at face value. So in terms of where we were, I think it's come a long way. I don't think it's completely fixed though, right? I think Richard's an extremely controversial figure in the space, but that's how he built his name, especially debating everybody. You're going to make some not good friends. But in terms of gatekeeping, for instance, with Hex, it was really difficult to even talk about Hex. Uniswap on their front end banned Hex. It was to extreme levels. And I think with the community the size that we have now and the amount of people that back us, it's more difficult now to gatekeep because it's easier to get the message out and it makes other people start to look bad. So, I think there's a long, long way to go. But from where we were to where we are now, I think it's a lot better, yeah. But I think there's a lot way to go.
I agree with Katie. And when you talk about the strength of this community, when I see the amount of engagement she gets when she makes a Hex and Pulsechain tweet, or what I get, what a Hex and Pulsechain tweet, and then you compare those to individuals that are not even in cryptocurrency that have, comparable follower counts or 3 times the follower counts, specifically Katie in this case, having much more engagement than those with 100K, 120K followers. And even with me, who only has 20,000 followers, getting on my last, one of my last posts, it said like, who's still here? And it got like 830 likes. And it's like, you don't see that type of engagement, specifically, at least what I've seen in cryptocurrency, unless you're in the top 10, communities. And I would say like the biggest communities in cryptocurrency, at least in my opinion, are Hex and Pulsechain, Solana, Doge, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, XRP, Sheeb, and maybe a few others that I'm not thinking of. And it's just like, you see that engagement, and it really says something about how Hexicans and Pulsicans know how to support their own. I guess the main question now is, how do we use that combined, I would dare say, marketing prowess through an outside lens, as opposed to being so inwardly focused to ourselves, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Liquid Loans is the first truly decentralized lending protocol built specifically for Pulsechain. Fully backed stablecoin, low 100% collateral ratio, no repayment schedule, immutable, governance-free, no admin keys. Visit liquidloans.io to learn more or to watch videos to find out how it works. I think it's great. I think we got to come up with a better name than Pulsekins. I mean, where are we at on that? Kaitiee, where do you stand on Pulsekins?
I'm not the biggest fan of it as like in comparison to Hexicans. I don't mind the name Hexicans, but
actually, it's good.
I don't know how I feel about it.
And listen, I want to say this for the record. I love the Hexican people. Okay. I love the Hexican people. And everybody knows I love the Hexican people. I want them to come in. I don't want to keep them out. Hexican people, you can come in. No walls, no borders. Listen, here's the thing. Pulsekins. Okay, guys, that was a Donald Trump wall joke. Can somebody laugh?
I got it. I was gonna make
an election year over here. I think, Kaitiee, are you in Australia?
Yeah.
Oh man, y'all's political world is so y'all can't even laugh at ours. So look, here's the thing. They don't even let people go outside anymore in Australia. They got to stay inside all the time. They got to have a hall pass to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know. Melbourne.
That's to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's it. Seriously, Melbourne was like, are you in Melbourne by chance?
No.
Melbourne's crazy. Almost everybody in Australia is in Melbourne. And you and your they call him your partner. Like in the United States, if I said, hey, so I was chilling with my partner, people are like, your business partner? I'd be like, nah, he stole my company. What kind of partner are you talking about? They'd be like, oh, well, that would mean you were gay in America. In Australia, in Melbourne, I guess, you say partner. That's just your significant other. So the guy was telling me that worked for a OTC desk I worked with down there. He's like, yeah, me and my partner can't even go outside. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, like you literally were not allowed to both go outside at the same time.
What?
Yeah.
Bro, and in New York too.
Yeah. But in Melbourne, it was extended. It was a long time like that. And it was crazy, but I digress. I can't remember why we were talking about that. More importantly, Kaitiee, how does Pulsechain solve COVID?
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Well, that was the show, guys. Thank you. No. Look, what's a better name than Pulsekins?
I actually think Pulsekins is cute. I'm not, but it makes me think of like little bears. Kind of like the Care Bears. Like they're Pulsekins.
Oh God. Now that you've said that, now all I can think about is like a Ugandan version of Care Bears, but instead of bears, they're pelicans.
Okay, since we're talking about the different
and their powers come out of their,
I was going to bring this up. But I was actually on the street. I saw this guy with a Bitcoin shirt on, and I was golfing, even though I suck at golfing. And I was like, "Oh, you're in Bitcoin? That's awesome, man. I'm in crypto too." He's like, "So what communities are you in?" I said, "I'm a Hexican," and he said to me, "He's like, what's a Hexican? Like a Mexican witch doctor?" And I'm like, no, it's a cryptocurrency called Hex. So, and we call ourselves the Hexicans. So,
wow, that's a good balderdash. You ever play that game Balderdash? I love that game Balderdash, where it's a word and everybody makes up a definition, and you got to guess which definition is real. There's one real definition. A traditional Scottish folk song. Use that as your definition. They'll guess it almost every time. Because if somebody guesses your fake definition, you get points.
There we go.
Yeah, you get paid for lying. Okay, so we have kind of gone around the world here. Well, we've looked around at a lot of different things, and we've decided that Pulsekins we don't think is the name. Kaitiee, do you think there are people out there that absolutely just love the name Pulsekins?
No, I don't really hear many people saying it.
I think our first order of business here on the Pulsechain Podcast is for our audience down in the comments to help us come up with a new name for the Pulsechain community. And guys, I'm not gonna take it over. I'm not gonna be the leader of it, like I'm the leader of every community I ever talk about, as you guys know, as the Sultan of Solana. And the commander-in-chief now of the XRP army. I was actually promoted. Look, I'm just a regular guy. I'm just a Hex and Pulsechain ambassador. That's all I am. I'm not trying to take over y'all's community. So I don't want you to think I'm going to come up with something like, I don't know, Pulse Pradas, and I be the Pulse Prada Dada. That's not what I'm going to be.
The Pulsinis, how you doing?
Pulcinis. I don't know. Look, the audience, I want y'all in the comments, I want you guys to put that down there, because I think on our 3rd episode, we can come out firing. And we can just rename this whole damn community. Right? I mean,
I'm excited to see what people write. I can't
even that message.
Anything clever. Yeah. I've got nothing. Pulsekins is kind of growing on me. I'm just saying.
Nah. Gotta tell you what. Pulsechain, look, they just added a kin to the end of the name. I mean, they just copied Hex. Katie, can you talk to me about Pulse and Hex? I feel like there's like almost some. Is there tension? Are there people that are dug in Hex maxis and aren't like pushing Pulse? Like, I want to talk about this. Like, is there a split in the community? Like, because I was told pretty unequivocally by almost everybody we talked to, don't do a Hex podcast, do a Pulsechain podcast.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, I get it. Like, Hex is on Pulsechain, so they kind of go hand in hand. But I think when you have a community that was centered around an ERC20 token on Ethereum, and then you go and build an entire blockchain, you're going to have subset communities. So yeah, sometimes there's a little bit of rivalry or like bickery between them, but like it's kind of expected. If you have dudes that were playing with NFTs over on Ethereum and now they have them on Pulsechain, but they're heavily into Hex, there's going to be a little bit of controversy from like your maxis. So I mean, it's just a paradigm shift, and the community's just making its own little subgroups. And I think it's healthy, to be honest. Like, you want to see the subgroups. If you didn't see the subgroups being formed, I would be pretty worried.
Right. It's really interesting. I think it was a couple weeks ago, there was that post on, I think Richard had posted about Hex and Pulsechain and was telling people basically who had Hex on Ethereum to move over to Pulsechain. And there was some bickering, it looked like, in the comments, and
there's a lot of upset people still about it.
I was gonna say that's a oh my god, yeah,
that's an ongoing thing, baby. They people are mad at Richard at them.
Yeah, I never thought
Dick Hart.
I'll be honest with you, I never thought a large component of the community would actually, I'm trying to say this in the most professional way, but go
buck up at their dad. That's what I would say.
Thank you for exactly. When there's so much reverence around him and everything that he does or say, I was kind of in shock seeing like, wow, there's like some quasi mutiny happening right now.
Yeah,
I never thought I'd see the day ever in this community ever. So that pissed a lot of people off. I will say that pissed a lot of people, at least from my own empirical experience. It pissed a lot of people off.
It kind of lines up with the narrative. Here of Pulsechain kind of becoming its own thing, and people kind of say, maybe we're not the cult of Richard anymore. I will always be the Jim Jones of the Richard Hart cult. Sure. I hope that's, I don't know. Is he a bad person? I just picked one. I didn't want to say Jeffrey Dahmer. I knew that.
Very
what were you going to say?
Yeah. So, and I'm curious as to the reason. I mean, sure, it's certainly inconvenient, to have to switch from Ethereum to Pulsechain. But as far as what I was reading, it's like every Hex on Ethereum, there's, a duplicate, like you have your own Hex on Pulsechain. Not that really complex. So is it just being married to Ethereum and not wanting to venture off onto a new chain?
No, it's they had a bunch of Hex on Ethereum, and the price was scam wicked. They lost all the money. It's a scam wick basically that was permanent now. So if you didn't sell before, that's why people are mad. People are not mad because we're just like posting. They're like, look, this is what we've been talking about with Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. With Bitcoin, we are kind of thinking like, guys, we don't know what we're going to do with this Ethereum. Certainly, we have the option to go multi-chain, have option to go to several different chains. But, at the end of the day, that's a hard decision to look at and make because it'll tank the price. And we're in a bull run. So, great, it's great for the long term. But we come out and say that, like, people, like, that if we've not made that decision. These are just things we're throwing out there, just throwing stuff at the wall, thinking about, because you were just looking at the chains. We're looking at the chains, and like, this chain's asking, could we want to come over there? Maybe, I don't know. So these are conversations we're having, and we see because of what Richard said and did, we see how much a comment like that will crush the price on your current chain.
I think it was his delivery, to be honest. Like the actual message wasn't anything new that the community didn't know. So like since the day Pulsechain like launched and everybody had their free copy, the free copy on Pulsechain of Hex was always more valuable than the Ethereum side. So like in terms of like what was actually said, he just stated facts. Like the market decided that P Hex was more valuable and it's the real Hex now. Well, it like they did, like the community chose, like he had nothing to say. The dude didn't even tweet about Hex for like nearly 2 years, like maybe 2 tweets, right, about Hex. Like he hasn't been talking about it at all. For the whole entire time Pulsechain launched, he said nothing. The community decided that P Hex was more valuable and it was going to be above in value to E Hex. He just tweeted out saying the market decided P Hex is more valuable. And he didn't really say leave E Hex behind. He just said that P Hex is the real Hex now. And if you have E Hex, consider either getting P Hex because it's the one that's probably going to move up in value, or just move your money off Ethereum and bring it to Pulsechain. Like if you look at our liquidity, for instance, some of our community is still providing liquidity over on Ethereum, even though our founder built Pulsechain for us. So like, why do we house millions of dollars of liquidity for other tokens that are built around Hex and Hex itself? Like, why are we still housing that on Ethereum, like instead of bringing it over to Pulsechain? Because you can still buy eHex on Pulsechain. You can just spend 1 cent buying it on Pulsechain versus $40 on Ethereum to buy it. So the delivery sucked.
I agree.
That's I can see that.
Well, you know, I read the original post. I read the original post. Trying to use the proper language now. Stupid as it is. I read the post and I remember thinking, oh, you know, I just read it. It wasn't that interesting to me. And then all of a sudden the price tanks and everybody's yelling, everybody's mad at it. And actually, I'm surprised that's what it said, because the way I remembered it something like, you're an idiot if you have your Pulsechain on Ethereum. Get off. It's going to zero. We're going to make sure that it does. Everybody choose Pulsechain. Like, that's kind of how I actually kind of remember the tweet now. I'm serious. Like, I know I didn't say that, but you saying how, like, plain and matter of fact and, like, non-controversial the post actually was, and then the way I remember it, because the way it's been received, it's totally different. It's like a game of telephone. It's like I tell everybody, I say, you know, if you go look at Ivan on Tech, if you go look at his live stream every day, and you go look at his title, I love Ivan, by the way, you will see a game of telephone from his title, because he's the first person that really posts, because he's in Europe. He posted methodically every YouTuber after that. It's like a different version of that title. And by the end of the day, it's just the same title swaps around, you know? So it is one of those kinds of things. Well, look, I think that we have to run. Katie, this has been a very fun podcast. I think it's been very great. I love the grassroots movement. I love helping people, and I love all the stuff you had to say. One last question. Are you a Pulsechain maxi?
I am a maxi, yeah, but I'm more of a crypto and DeFi maxi. Like, if you ask me about other things, I will talk to you about them. I'm not like, but I like Pulsechain and I like Hex.
That is great. That was a question I thought about as I was listening to some of your answers. I was like, you know what? I bet she's a Pulsechain maxi. Don't worry. We're going to help you guys come up with a better name. It's going to be fantastic. We are super excited about it. It's going to be a community. It's not going to be me. I want everybody to be clear on this. I'm not naming y'all. I'm not coming up with it. We're going to have in the comments, we're going to choose the best 4. We're going to put a poll on X. We're going to see what they want.
The Pulsechain.
Pulsechain.
Katie, could Corey come up with a worse name? I'm sorry, guys. We got to go.
Come up with a lot worse name. Trust me.
Guys, well, it's been a heck of a podcast. It's another great episode of the Zone 5 Pulsechain Podcast. Special thank you to our sponsor, our title sponsor, Liquid Loans. A lot of talk about liquidity. And every time, man, I tell you what, I get liquid over those loans. You guys make sure to check them out. Look, Katie, it's been great having you on the show today. Thank you so much. You have anything you'd like to leave the audience with? And also tell the audience where they can find you at.
Yeah, my handle's Kaitiee Crypto on Twitter. And yeah, anything you guys need or want, just reach out.
All right. You guys heard it here first. She's there to help the community. You got to love that. Corey Costa, he's here to help us. Thank you to Corey for joining the show as always. And thank you to the lovely Duchess of DeFi. She is the most elite and most exclusive of all Duchesses of DeFi's. And she is the only one, but she is the Duchess of my heart. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. Liquid Loans, thank you. See you guys, bye. Thank you to Liquid Loans, the sponsor of the Zone 5 podcast. With Liquid Loans, you never have to sell your Pulse. Hashtag never selling. With liquidloans.io, never selling is more than just a meme. It's actually kind of possible. So if you've ever wanted to have your Lambo and drive it too, then start your zero interest free loan journey today. Liquidloans.io.